You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 AM, a CBS station.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS radio station 1580 AM in the Washington, D.C. area, or on the web, WMClive.com, where you can also find links to podcasts of previous shows. And I want to hear from you. You can tweet us at hashtag WMCLive or email at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. On today's show, we'll visit with Sady Doyle, former winner of the Women's Media Center Social Media Award, and also with Martha Allen of the Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press, and with journalist and activist Mona Eltahawy, just arrived from Egypt with reports on how the current chaos is affecting women and vice versa. Then we have a hilarious, no-holds-barred conversation with Jane Fonda about her character in Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom, season premiere tomorrow night, about what it's like working with Sorkin, about Ted Turner, and a lot about sex. But first, let's take a look inside the headlines. Item: former ad man millionaire turned art dealer Charles Saatchi was reported in the press as arguing angrily with his wife, a, quote, tearful and fearful Nigella Lawson, the chef and cookbook writer, in a London restaurant, and then, in public, grasping her by the throat with both hands 4 times during the contentious dinner. Saatchi pooh-poohed this, quote, incident to friends. He says people need to be more forgiving. Lawson hasn't commented, but has reportedly told friends that her husband desperately needs anger management classes. Item: Anthony Weiner, former New York congressman who sexted pictures of his bulging crotch to women on the Internet, is making his big comeback move after a mere 2 years, running in the Democratic primary for mayor of New York. His wife, the mother of their toddler, Huma Abedin, a high-ranking aide to Hillary Rodham Clinton, stayed with him. Weiner has quickly drawn almost even with the frontrunner Christine Quinn, who would be if she won the city's first woman mayor. He attributes his rise in the polls with New Yorkers' forgiveness and willingness to give him a second chance. Item: Eliot Spitzer, former crusading DA and briefly Democratic New York State governor before his career seemed scuttled by the revelation that he had repeatedly patronized an elite brothel, Emperor's Club, VIP, from which he purchased prostituted women. He is also making a comeback. He's running for city controller. He's asking for, forgiveness and a second chance. Mark Sanford won his second chance and a seat in Congress after his shameful downfall as South Carolina's Republican governor who lied about hiking in the Appalachian Trail when he was in South America with his mistress. They all, except I guess Saatchi, went into deep therapy, apparently for a full 15 minutes. Now, isn't this special? Look, I'll try to not wander off point, but it was Saatchi who put Damien Hirst on the map, the so-called artist whose work consists of dead animals, including a shark, a sheep, and a cow, preserved, sometimes dissected, in formaldehyde, in huge, clear display cases. Saatchi's promotion of Hearst brought wealthy fools with no sense of art flocking to outbid each other for the privilege of owning and showing off suffering and death that they'd bought, now on display in their living rooms. Somehow, I think that's connected to refusing to take anger management classes, even though you've been seen trying to strangle your wife in the hottest new restaurant in Mayfair. No, I mustn't digress, even if Eliot Spitzer is apparently paying for his own campaign from his wife's deep pockets, as much as $800 a day, reportedly, to each clipboard signature collector on the street. Hey, that's not nearly as much as he shelled out to the high-end brothel. According to federal investigators, $80,000 over several years, first as Attorney General, later during his reign as governor. And I do mean reign. Focus on forgiveness? Their wives don't complain, except for Jenny Sanford, so how dare anyone else? But this is why feminists fought for and won the right to third-party complaints in cases of domestic abuse, precisely because the wife in such a situation often suffers Stockholm Syndrome, or may lie to the police, "Oh, officer, I walked into a door and then fell downstairs," rather than face punitive vengeance once the cops leave. Money and fame actually intensify the shame and secrecy and endow the man with even greater power to blame the victim but protect himself. And these guys demand forgiveness and a second chance? Not from me. Two also demand the office of mayor and that of controller. Not from me. I don't want sexually sick people who treat women abominably running my city. The wives, their agony has become so commonplace they even have their own TV series, The Good Wife, with Juliana Margulies. In real life, Jenny Sanford packed up and left. Slida Wall-Spitzer stayed, publicly blaming herself. The wife, she said, should take care of sex. Nigella Lawson, who knows? She's moved out, but they both claim it's not a separation. Surely, though, some part of her must want to display Saatchi in formaldehyde in a large glass case in her den or kitchen. Huma Abedin, she's political herself, so this might in time turn interesting, especially since her longtime mentor is someone who went through the hottest fire and made herself over so stunningly that her own trajectory became the story. Hillary Rodham Clinton. That goes beyond revenge. That makes history. Our first guest today, Sady Doyle, has been mostly known for her popular and politically effective blog, Tiger Beatdown, but now she's a staff writer for In These Times and Rookie magazine. She's here to talk about the controversy she generated online recently when, in an article for Global Comment, she dared criticize a comic for his rape jokes. Welcome, Sady, back to Women's Media Center Live. Good to have you back.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I want to talk about this now infamous terrific piece that you wrote for Global Comment, I guess about a month or so ago, about the comedian and his misogynistic and sexist and rape jokes, and then what happened from there. Tell us the story.
Right. Well, at the time that I wrote the piece, and it was really, it was sort of by accident. I went out with some friends. They had tickets to a comedy show. I went, and the opener was just this guy. Sam Morrill is his name, and as I recall, one of the first jokes he told, I feel bad even, repeating it on a feminist podcast, but one of his first jokes was, my ex-girlfriend never made me wear a condom. She was on the pill. Ambien. So, and it just sort of went on from there. I know. It was terrifying. But what I thought was, he's not totally inaccessible. He has a website. He has means to contact him. Why don't I send him some questions? So I sent him some questions. They were mostly about, do you think about how common these assaults are when you tell these jokes? Is this a realistic possibility in your mind? How do you do this when there are going to be women in your audience? He didn't respond to the questions. We published the piece with the questions and his lack of response. And things sort of blew up from there. It triggered something apparently very primal and very angry in a lot of comedians, And I need to stress, and I don't mean to take up too much time, but that I didn't do this alone. Lindy West, who writes for Jezebel, wrote some really strong pieces about this and appeared on Kamal Bell's show. Molly Neffel wrote a really strong piece about how, even progressive comedians aren't weighing in on this, and I think that was directly responsible for a comedian named Patton Oswalt writing a piece that I thought was quite good about how he'd been forced to reconsider his own stance on rape jokes and how he thought he was wrong. So I think, it's sparked a conversation, and that at least is a positive thing.
Well, I think you're amazingly generous, to have even tried to write him and say, what about an interview and what about, a dialogue or something like when I go to my default, which is, the things I see when I don't have my Uzi handy. And so I think, God, it's just the younger feminists are so much more mature and and generous-hearted than the killer breed that I came from. But there is a thing in comedy where they take refuge and say, well, all subjects are up for, spoofing, except that it seems one subject, that is female people, tend to be up as targets more than anybody else. And it also, I think, is not true. There are some areas they just don't touch. But we're not one of them, you know. But then the kind of opprobrium that you got, was that at the level that sometimes the web can be, which scares the hell out of many of us? I mean, where the trolls come at you and it's just vituperous and vicious, or was this a more mounted attack from the comedy establishment?
You know, it was... I think, you know, again, Lindy West has compiled some of the, you know, rape threats and jokes about raping her that she's seen. You know, there were fake Facebook pages set up for me and Lindy West at one point. Mine was just a picture. My profile picture was a penis with a big no sign over it, like the Ghostbusters logo, because, you know, that's clever. And, you know, it was sort of just a torrent of constant either condescension or outright rage or jokes about raping me or, you know. And it's not unexpected, you know, but the shame is that, you know, when you do work online, this is sort of part of the price you pay for having a voice at all. And I mean, it should be.
Well, that's a brave and ethical statement, but you're not the first online feminist that I've asked this of. What can we do about it? Is there anything that we can do? I mean, we know it's the Wild West. We know that there is no responsibility because you're hiding in your pajamas and you can say these vile things and giggle. And we know that there's a teenage white male sensibility out there that gets off on this. But is there a way, as internet communication matures and sophisticates in a sense, and it's so invaluable and it's so important and it's changing the world and the way that we live, is there some way to get this explosion of sexist violence contained or changed or off of it? I mean, have any of us begun to think of ways and means of doing that?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, you are never going to stop a man who is angry at women and believes women shouldn't have the right to speak from showing up somewhere.
Right.
What you can do, I think, is change the focus of the culture. If we keep spotlighting the hostility that women face for being online, if we keep spotlighting it and naming it as a gendered problem, I'd like to believe that, you know, people will become more conscious of it and they will be less likely to unconsciously or unthinkingly, I should say, participate in it. You know, it's just the same as changing any other cultural issue. It's just the same as changing rape culture or anything else. You know, the more you are able to spotlight the fact of misogynist harassment as a necessary consequence of being a woman online, and by necessary consequence, I may make it seem like it's unavoidable, but what I mean is that, you know, if you go out there, you know that's what you're going to face.
That's right. Right.
So the more we spotlight that, the more we make it apparent. I did a hashtag campaign called Men Call Me Things last year that was just about spotlighting this.
That's
brilliant. Because it's always a problem. Yeah.
Oh, we've got to go, but that's hopeful. That's a good hopeful note to end on. And I know that there are other online activists who are doing comparable things, upending rape culture, just a whole lot of ways of naming it and naming it and naming it again, and I think there will make a dent in it. It's so vituperous and so widespread that it takes my breath away. It's, as you say, in effect, it's shocking but not surprising. You know, but the work that you continue to do is really great. I'm so glad that you're writing for In These Times and for Rookie Magazine and for Global Comment, and we will look for your work on all of those. And keep it up, Sady.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Time for a short break. You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. That's me. And when I return, I'll be talking with a member of a feminist dynasty, which was into feminist media earlier than almost anyone else. Back in just a minute. After Hurricane Sandy, parts of the East Coast have returned to normal, but others won't see normal again for quite some time. One group getting volunteers and aid supplies to those who need it is called Occupy Sandy. Made up of a coalition of Occupy Wall Street activists, community organizers, and technologists, Occupy Sandy is using social media and other software tools to identify and quickly respond to urgent needs among the hardest-hit communities. You can help. To donate or to volunteer, visit occupysandy.org.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 AM, a CBS station.
Welcome back. One of the oldest and most quietly important organizations of contemporary feminism is the Washington, D.C.-based Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press, founded by Donna Allen, who also founded a feminist dynasty. One daughter, Dana Densmore, wrote early radical feminist theory and started one of the first self-defense training dojos for women. The other daughter, Martha Allen, president of the Institute, is with us today. Oh, Martha, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Oh, thank you, Robin. I'm delighted to be on your program.
Well, it's a real thrill to have you here. The Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press, I remember when your mother founded it, when Donna Allen founded it, and I remember thinking, wow, how cool it would be to have a mother like that. And there was you, and then Dana, who I notice is now the vice president of the Institute.
Yes.
And the three of you were this just amazing, and are this amazing feminist dynasty. I mean, and you've continued the work and taken it in your own directions and with your own stamps. Bravissima.
I was delighted to be in this family and be given the direction that I was given by the work that my mother did, both politically and then when she reached the point where she realized something had to be done about media. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I experienced. You know, when I graduated from college, I had really paid attention to the civil rights movement and the burgeoning women's movement. Mm-hmm. But all the work I did, I felt like, how are we going to accomplish all this? There's so many just life, there's things that are crucial, violence against women, right. The ecology, you end up being torn. What do I work on? Everything is crucial. And that's why when my mother started working on media issues, I realized, yes, that gets at the root of the problem, because people have wonderful ideas and people have solutions, but if they don't have a way of getting out that information, nothing's going to change.
Exactly. And we know that, so sort of approximately 6 pale males control the media. Yes. And it's really quite terrifying. And I remember that one of the first slogans of the Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press was simply, there was a tiny little slogan in the corner that would say, "Freedom of the press belongs to those who own the press." and I thought, oh, that's very clever. That's actually true. It was sort of a click moment. And it's taken me all these years to realize how crucial, how much of a centerpiece media is in the feminist movement, in all progressive movements, because, as you say, if you can't get the word out, the word does no good.
Yes, and in the 1980s, when I was working on my research for my dissertation, there were about 50 corporations that owned the majority of media. And then by 87, or around the time when I was graduating, it was down to 29, and now about 6.
Right.
And those corporations are bringing huge revenues. You know, like General Electric is, which owns NBC and Telemundo and a lot of others. You know, 183 billion in revenue just in 2008. So in 1 year. So, and they own other holdings, you know, plenty of media holdings in various fields, but also other businesses, you know, domestically, and a lot of these companies globally. So of course they have a stake in policies that affect their businesses.
And then they also own some people in Congress, which means that they can make that stake. They can affect that stake favorably. So it's all. I don't mean to sound paranoid, but even paranoids have real adversaries, and this is these are facts. So tell people about, in your own words, about the Institute and some of the many wonderful things that it does. You should all go to the website, because it's all there, which is simply WIF as in freedom, P. Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press, WIFP.org, and you'll see it there. But talk about, Voices for Media Democracy and the directory of women's media and the women's media page, and just so many things that you've done over the years and still do.
Oh, thank you. Yes, well, one of the things that drew me into working with my mother in the Institute was in 1975 when we came out with our first print edition of the Directory of Women's Media. And the directory lists women's print now, not at that time, obviously, but now the online newsletters, e-zines, radio groups and radio shows like this one, film, video, publishers, news services, all forms of media. And certainly in the early days, before we had Google and the Internet to be able to, find practically anything we needed, it was crucial to have.
Oh, before Google, you were it. You were it. No, seriously. I remember going, if I was traveling and I would be going to a certain part of the country, I would look up, what media was there, what groups could I contact, what groups might I be able to help, stuff like that.
Yes.
Anyway, go on. Talk about the goodies more.
Well, one of the ideas that we had about the need for change was based on the idea is we need a communication system in this country and in the world where people can communicate their information directly and not have to go through these, huge corporations. And to do that, it's really twofold. It's to build our own networks, but it's also not to leave those big corporations alone and let them have huge outreach, but to hold them accountable in different ways and encourage women that get into journalism in the mass communication, because they can reach people, new people, that don't automatically come to us or listen to our programs. And it was really amazing to me that with the Internet, it was like exactly the kinds of concept we had, although, we didn't envision that exactly.
Yeah,
but
right.
where with, a little bit of money, to have a computer, and access, or you have to go to the library or something, you can get your information out and no, it's not like a letter to the editor.
No, you're absolutely
separate.
right.
I mean, it's so different, and that's why another issue we work on is net neutrality, because we need to, ensure that the internet service providers do not discriminate or favor any, content moving over their networks.
Yeah, there are forces that want it to go exactly the same direction that legacy media went.
Yes, and yet the internet has allowed us to communicate in a way that, we wouldn't have thought possible.
That's right.
In 1972, when the Women's Institute was founded.
Right. No, we used to have telephone trees to alert people to demonstrations then, and that was long before Twitter.
Yes. And now the Director of Women's Media is not only printed, but it is available online for free, so anyone in the world can access that information.
Oh, that's just wonderful. That is really cool.
And so I remember when I was first putting it together, we would have to mail letters internationally to all the different women's media. Now you have ways to communicate with them that doesn't cost anything.
That's right. It is.
It's really
it's a great tool for communication and research, and it may just be the most revolutionary tool that's been invented yet. They didn't plan it that way, but that's the way it's being used. We have to go in 1 second, but I want you to say again the name of the website and how people can relate to it.
Great. The address is WIFP, that stands for Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press, .org. Mm-hmm. And there's links on that page to our print voices that we make available as a PDF, and to subscribe to our email newsletter, to see the directory online, everything.
It's really good. It's good reading, and it makes you feel, I think, very powerful and very connected. I think I've been an associate.
You have
for 115 years, and I'm aiming for 115 more.
Great.
Oh, dear Martha, take care of yourself. Please give my love to Donna. Thank you for
you so much.
Keeping this going. And next time I'm in D.C. or in New York, we have to have dinner.
Yes.
Catch up. All right, I send you a big hug and my thanks.
Thank you, Robin.
Let's take a brief pause here on Women's Media Center Live, where I still am Robin Morgan. Coming up in just a minute is an eyewitness report from Egypt by journalist Mona Eltahawy. Don't go away.
When it comes to talk radio, men still do most of the talking. It doesn't get too much better if you look at television, newspapers, film, video games, social media, literature, sports, and corporate or technology leadership. The Women's Media Center's Status of Women in the U.S. Media 2013 report details the persistent gender disparity in a range of media institutions that rank among the greatest influencers in American society. To read the full report, go to womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 AM, a CBS station.
Welcome back again. Mona Eltahawy is a name and face familiar from appearing on CNN and other news outlets as a refreshingly honest expert on Egypt who also understands the West and is one hell of a feminist, I might add. Now healed from a multiple sexual assault plus the breaking of both her arms by police and soldiers during the first revolution in Tahrir Square, she's back to tell us about the uprising this time around. Welcome back to Women's Media Center Live, Mona. It's good that you're back.
Thank you for having me back, Robin.
Well, you're freshly landed recently from Egypt, and I know you're going back there soon in a few weeks. I don't know where to start. People are shooting each other and killing each other, and the generals have taken over, but it seems to have been something the people wanted. Bring us up to speed, and from a source that we can trust, not the general straight news media. And tell me also, please, what is the role that women are playing in this, or are we completely sidelined, or, tell me.
I would first of all call what happened over the past week in Egypt, what began on June 30th and concluded on July 3rd, I would call it a popular impeachment. Millions of Egyptians took to the street. Yeah, I would not call it a coup, even though we do see the generals involved.
Right.
Because in Egypt, we had a coup in 1952 through which 6 army officers overthrew the monarchy and ended British occupation of Egypt. And in response to that coup, millions of people hit the street to support it. What we saw on June the 30th was the opposite. We saw millions of people hit the street after an amazing campaign called Tamarrud, which means rebel or rebellion. That was essentially a petition campaign. And it was just a group of very young grassroots activists who started this wonderful idea of let's petition to call for early elections because we feel that Mohamed Morsi has lost his legitimacy. And they say that they claimed to collect millions more signatures calling for early elections than the millions who voted for Mohamed Morsi. And the real test of that was really on June 30th when they called for these protests to say, let's support early elections. And as I said, millions of Egyptians, an estimated 14 million Egyptians in one day across the entire country, not just Cairo.
That's amazing. And also it's important because at one point the fundamentalists were claiming, yes, well, it's all very well for Cairo intellectual elites, but the rest of the country and the rural parts, I mean, they're with us. And apparently they're not with them.
You see, that's why I say it was a popular impeachment of many things, because there were many myths that were dismantled on that day. One of those myths that was that we could not fill big squares in Cairo or anywhere else unless we had Islamists protesting with us. And that was not true, because we saw last Sunday, June 30th, that the majority of people protesting against Mohamed Morsi were not Islamists. They might not all be secularists, but they weren't definitely Islamists. So, we got rid of that myth that it's only the Islamists who could bring out the millions. So these millions of people were essentially telling Mohamed Morsi, many of whom actually voted for him last year, exactly a year ago, who were telling him that you've lost legitimacy. And the reason he did this was that starting in last November, Mohamed Morsi issued a constitutional declaration that assumed tremendous powers for himself, that then allowed him to rush through a very unpopular constitution that strengthened only 2 groups in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood and the military. And this is a great irony, because it's that same military now that ended up supporting the people who wanted to impeach Morsi. Now, we don't have any other mechanisms to impeach our president because we don't have a sitting parliament, and nothing in that constitution gave us an ability to tell the president that we voted for, we no longer want you. So basically the only democratic institution, in quotation marks, that we had was the street, and so we used it. So basically my point to your listeners is democracy is more than just a piece of paper in a box. We have to move beyond the fetishization of the ballot box and consider democracy in all its aspects. And Egyptians last week told Mohamed Morsi, you are no longer our democratic president.
They voted with their feet. In other words,
And the generals responded to that. The generals didn't lead this. The generals responded to that. But many of us are making it very clear to General Sisi, who's the defense minister, that we did not march for you. And we did not march for military rule. And just as we impeached Morsi, we will march against you if we feel that this is turning into military rule. This is a really important point. One of the main goals of our revolution is to end military rule.
That is. I mean, and you, sooner or later, it has to sink into even the thickest skull that if the people have done this before, and now they've done it again, and now they've done it again, and if we mess with them, they're going to do it again to us. So maybe we better not mess with them anymore. But
exactly. I don't know why people don't understand this about Egyptians. We have changed forever. If anybody tries to repress us, we will be out there saying no.
Well, what I find especially heartening about what you're saying, because that gets overlooked in most of the coverage in the West, or maybe most of the coverage internationally, is that the entire thing was, it's very rarely reported that the entire thing was started by the youth. And it's,
absolutely.
And so the alliance that you and I talked about before, and that I certainly feel most drawn to for obvious reasons, which is women, youth, separatists, secularists, have sort of disappeared in the popular reporting on between the army and the Islamists and the army. But you're saying that third force is alive and well and and really, in a sense, is leveraging this kind of uprising.
Absolutely. I always say, imagine Egypt to be a triangle. On one point is the military, on another point is the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists who support them, and on a third point is the people, the revolution, the women, the youth, the disenfranchised, the marginalized, who have always felt that we deserve a much better choice than just the military or just the Islamists. Because for too long in Egypt, for more than 60 years in Egypt, it's either or. And what our revolution that continues, and for many years now we've been building up to this, our revolution is saying we deserve more than just the military or just the Islamists.
And tell me also what has been happening specifically with women. I heard that there was a whole assault on about 100 or so women were sexually assaulted. Was that by the army? Was that by the Islam? When did that occur?
Yes, from June 30th and over the 3 days after that, during which most of those main protests took place, in Tahrir Square alone, some amazing grassroots initiatives by feminists and feminist allies to help protect women and to extricate women from mob sexual assault attacks documented at least 100 cases of sexual violence against women. Now, it's not clear who is behind these attacks because it's very difficult to track these men down. Right. Some people believe they are organized mob assaults designed to keep women out of public space. But we cannot isolate them from the fact that we have depressingly high levels of sexual violence in Egypt generally. So whether it's organized, as we've seen the Mubarak regime do in 2005 against female activists, whether it's from the street, whether it's the denial and basically the allowing to act with impunity that we saw the Morsi regime give to sexual assaults, I blame everybody. Everybody is responsible for this because nobody, except for these small groups on the ground, is fighting or even talking about this. And it's exactly at the time when we don't talk about it that women are in most danger and that we must talk about it louder, as you know.
Absolutely. Here we've taken to calling it rape culture. In other words, an entire ambience that a society has embedded in it, in which comedians make rape jokes, in which it's an accepted thing, in which there's rape dungeon rooms, pages on Facebook, in which and where to stand up and say this is not funny. This happens 3 times a minute in this country and even greater frequency in other parts of the world. We do not find this amusing. This is sexual assault. Then you're of course a prude. You're bourgeois. You're anti-sex. So that's a rape culture. And I think
absolutely.
What you're talking about is Egypt suffers from that as well.
And what exacerbates it is that rapists and men who engage in sexual assault get away with it. They act with impunity because there's no accountability. We see no one being taken to court. The police do not take it seriously. The government does not take it seriously. And so women obviously are shamed into silence.
Right.
Now, here in the U.S., we have rape culture, absolutely, yes. But there's a system by which women can go and seek justice. And this is thanks to the work of feminists who refused to be silenced and who fought back.
Right.
Now, this is what we're doing in Egypt now through these grassroots groups who are fighting back and extricating women from the assault. I would love to see a national campaign against sexual violence that deals with it holistically. But because what worries me the most is that this paradigm of military and Islamists that we've lived under for such a long time in Egypt, when you look at both these entities, they're both very male-dominated, very paternalistic, very authoritarian, and absolutely anti-gender equality. So these are not the people who are going to give me gender justice.
No. But they're not going to stop you either. I wish I didn't have to stop you. Well, I'm not stopping you, but we have to stop right now. I know you're going back. I know we'll hear from you again. You better take care of yourself because you're a very precious resource for women everywhere. And we can
Thank you so much, Robin.
We'll look for your writing in The Guardian and all sorts of other places online. And we can't wait for the book that you haven't finished yet.
Het Dobbs and Hymans will be coming out soon.
All right. Take care, dearest Mona.
Thank you, Robin.
And we have to take another quick break. But this is still Women's Media Center Live, and I am still you-know-who. So settle back and get ready to enjoy next segment in a talkative, slightly outrageous, and pretty damn funny mood. Jane Fonda.
Want to stay informed when there are changes to Social Security? Subscribe to receive automatic email updates on popular Social Security web pages with the click of a button. Just visit www.socialsecurity.gov/GOV delivery. More than 1 million people already receive updates to the pages they're most interested in. You can too. Look for the red envelope followed by a link that says Get Email Updates. To learn more, visit www.socialsecurity.gov/GOV delivery. Social Security delivers.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 AM, a CBS station.
And here we are again. She really does need no introduction. In fact, here's a secret for you. Hers is the voice that introduces this show and does the identifying station breaks. But here's a few words anyway. She's my sister co-founder of the Women's Media Center and my sometimes wonderfully bawdy, say what you really think, friend, Jane Fonda. Dearest Jane, welcome back to Women's Media Center Live.
Oh, Robin, I'm just so happy to be talking to you again on this wonderful radio show.
Well, thank you, and happy to be talking to you. So, I want to start right in with the Newsroom, which will debut the very night after this show airs. And I have uncharacteristically been watching entertainment shows like E! And Entertainment Tonight because I happened on one and the whole cast was on it except you, and they were all talking about you. So then I watched others and they were doing the same thing. And they claim that in the opening episode, your character, the head of the network, gives a speech that is knocked down, drag them out, mops up the floor with anybody who opposes her, is memorable. And they also said, I think Jeff Daniels was the one who said, it reminded us all that Jane Fonda is simply one of the great actors of our time.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I've got to start watching these shows myself.
I do. And then the woman who played the Brit who played
Emily Mortimer.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
She added. She said, and on top of that, watching her just was amazing. I learned so much. But also on top of that, she's so nice. She said, and she has a great bottom. You've got a great bottom.
Well, it's interesting that she should say that since I was really nasty to her. If I'm right about the scene there, it's very complicated with Aaron Sorkin because I'm what's called a recurring guest star, right?
Yeah.
I only get the scripts that I'm in.
Right.
And we also reshot the first episode. I can't remember. I'm in 3 episodes as I was in the first season. And there is a very amazing speech that Aaron wrote for me. I didn't know it was the first speech, but what often happens with his shows is the time between the first episode and the final episode, which I'm definitely in, can be 24 hours.
Right, right.
A whole season has gone by.
Of course.
So I don't know what the chronology of all this is, but I do know that I received a script.
Yeah.
With a speech that you just die for.
Oh, wow.
As an actor. And I'm not sure how much that I'm supposed to give away, except that it was completely uncharacteristic for my wonderful character of Leona Lansing. I mean, she's a sharp-witted, sharp-tongued, very powerful. She's a female Rupert Murdoch that's been marinated in Ted Turner, as I said before, because she's much nicer than Rupert.
Yeah.
And somewhat more power than what even Ted had.
She doesn't exist in real life yet.
She does not quite exist in real
no
life.
Woman is that
she
powerful.
Could,
yeah.
Because there are women who have the breadth of experience and intelligence that you need to do what she does. What does she do? She, in her world, Leona Lansing's world, the newsroom represents less than 3% of the bottom line. It's negligible. What matters for her is her dealings in China, her dealings in her theater chains in Canada, her
It's a vast media empire.
Social media. I mean, it's global.
Right.
It's multi-billion dollars. The newsroom is a pittance. The problem is that the newsroom is like a little gnat. The newsroom can upset Congress. And she depends on Congress to be able to get the permission to do the things that she does.
But she also, at least last season, we glimpsed that there was something in her that was idealistic, not sentimental.
Well, her interest is bottom line.
Right.
What is the bottom line? That is what she feels quite justified in caring about, because she is beholden to the stockholders. It's a publicly traded company, and she has to make sure that they're making a profit, and the newsroom could very easily screw that up.
Mm-hmm.
Her personal values are more in line with the Sam Waterston and Jeff Daniels, what Jeff Daniels becomes, because in the very beginning of the very first show, what you find out is that for a long time, Jeff Daniels has been like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent. There are many, if not most, news reporters.
He was just
they
a filler.
want to be liked. They
That's
don't
right.
want to rock the boat. They
That's
want to
right.
be popular.
Right.
So they don't do anything that will upset anyone. And for a number of reasons, a lot of it is the influence of this woman, Emily Mortimer, who he used to be in love with, and they were almost engaged. There's a number of things that happen that cause him to say, you know what, the world is on the brink of calamity and catastrophe, and we have to tell the truth.
Right, and he turns back into a real newsman.
And he turns into a newsroom, much to the chagrin of my character. So here we are in the second season, and there's a scene. There's been a terrible thing happened. It's a little bit what happened with Tailhook at CNN, where a story is told that is not entirely accurate.
Wow.
The question is, who was responsible when that happened? 30 lawyers vetted it, and yet it slipped through, and it was really bad. And this has happened, and it's an emergency. And I am called in, and it's late at night, and I have been to a fundraiser for some verstunken thing at the Museum of Modern Art. I went primarily because I wanted to meet Daniel Craig, and I am drunk and stoned.
Oh, that must be the speech.
And I come in, and it's fantastic. It's the kind of speech that you dream about as an actor.
Yeah.
And it ends up very, very movingly. It's quite wonderful. And then X numbers of episodes later, which is the last episode of the second season, is when I appear again, and it's actually the day after that scene.
Hungover.
No. It's an even better scene.
Wow. Two in my God.
I don't want to give it too much away, but it is like the marketing department. The marketing department in my company has turned me into a pothead.
Oh my God!
It's
this is
really
so much
really
fun to
funny.
watch.
It's pull out all the stops and let them rip.
Oh wow!
And it's just delightful.
If this character, with all of her power and her glamour and her smarts, and her hidden heart, if she were to, I think she's having sex with somebody. Obviously, she wants to meet Daniel Craig. Who do you think, if she existed in real life, that level of power?
I think she's had sex with lots of people. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I know people think that people that are that powerful and that busy don't have time. There was a time when I thought that was true, and then I met Ted Turner. When Ted Turner was winning the America's Cup and building CNN and building his philanthropic empire, he was also sleeping with more women than I think he could count.
Oh, my God. Well, I guess they make time.
So and there are others, Warren Beatty, people who are very, very, very busy and manage to slip them in one after another. I don't think that Leona is that promiscuous, but because she's a woman, she does have to work harder and be more present and so forth.
Right.
But I think she slept with Charlie Rose. Her mentor is Warren Buffett. I think she slept with Warren Buffett.
I love this.
I think that she slept with Tony Blair. She slept with a lot of presidents.
And maybe she wants
slept
to
with
see
John Kerry.
Maybe she wants to see.
Gary Hart tried to sleep with her, and she said, "Ooh."
I see. Maybe she wanted to meet.
As a young girl, she slept with Kennedy.
Maybe she wanted to meet Daniel Craig to remind him that she'd slept with him, or to have another go.
In the scene, Jeff Daniels stands up. I'd say that I'm telling Sam Waterston I went there because I wanted to meet. I said, you know why I went to this thing? And he said, to help the arts. I said, to meet Daniel Craig. And then he wasn't there, and then I turned and I look at Jeff and I said, you look like Daniel Craig. Stand up. Oh, well, you look less like him. Sit down. And he says, I don't want to look like Daniel Craig. And I said, well, you should.
Oh.
Everybody should want to look like Daniel Craig. Anyway, it's very funny. She's a funny character, and Aaron Sorkin is just a genius.
Yeah, he's quite something.
I know that after the first season, you and other friends of mine complained that the women were all klutzes. Well, guess what? The men have... I went and watched the entire season again because of that. The men are klutzes, too.
They are. This is quite true. And I have to say also, just
it's a gender-neutral klutziness.
As a writer, I can't. I am awestruck. I can't complain. He's
incredible.
He's just too good. He's too good. Listen, we're almost out of time. Take a minute and...
I think she slept with Aaron Sorkin.
Oh, I think she did. I think she must have, and that's where he got his best ideas. Yeah. She probably slept with Tom Stopper too, all the good ones. Okay, and we have to factor women in for her too. We have to think about that. Powerful women.
She doesn't sleep with women.
She doesn't?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Well, maybe she...
No, she is a very definitive... some of her best friends are lesbians, but she's an absolutely quintessential heterosexual.
Okay, if a woman were powerful enough, she might. Just saying.
I mean, you either like cock or you don't.
All right, we're on the air, and I love talking with you. There's a reason I love you very much, and this is only one.
Try to remember what it is.
Only one of them. No. Listen to me. Take a minute and talk about the movie you just finished, and The Butler, and also The Butler, which is about to come out.
Okay, let me talk about The Butler, because something really horrible is happening.
Okay.
Warner Brothers, The Butler, I have seen it, and I think that it's an extraordinary film. It's a true story about a black man who grew up on a slave plantation in the Jim Crow South.
Yep.
And ended up a butler in the White House during the Truman administration. He left during the Reagan administration, and he visits the Obama administration.
Right.
And it's a great movie. It's the history of race in the United States, and Forrest Whitaker plays the butler, and he's genius. And Oprah plays his wife, and she is an actress.
And you play...
Forget it's Oprah.
And you play Nancy Reagan.
And I play Nancy Reagan, and it's a very nice scene. It's a tiny little cameo. Okay, Warner Brothers is suing the Weinsteins because in 1913 they made a short film called The Butler.
Oh, give me a break.
And they say that we can't use the name of the butler. We can't even use the word butler in the title. Can you believe that?
Well, but it must
when we're this close to opening and they've done all their ad art and all that.
But the ads are out, so they must not be enjoining them from opening.
I don't know. It's just horrible. Oh. But it is a fantastic movie that will be around a long, long time. It will be shown in schools. It's a wonderful movie.
It sounds wonderful. Absolutely.
And then I just finished doing one because I know we're running out of time. Dig this. My children were Tina Fey, Jason Bateman, Adam Driver, and Corey Stoll. Corey Stoll is the guy the bald actor in House of Cards. He played Hemingway in Midnight in Paris. Genius actor. Adam Driver is one of the great actors I've ever worked with. And it was totally traumatic for me to work for these young comedians. With these young comedians. I've done dramas that are almost all improvised. I've never improvised in comedy.
Wow.
These kids are just improvising, and I was traumatized. I'm starting to work with the Upright Citizens Brigade to learn how to improvise.
Oh, I love it.
It's a very, very, very funny movie.
Wow. Well, you've been rather busy. And it sounds like you've been having really good fun, and you've left some amazing performances in your wake, which I cannot wait to see.
Well, that's good. I can't wait either.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them put together.
Simply one of the great actors of our time, quote unquote. That was what was said.
Isn't that nice?
It's nice. It's nice for an understatement. I don't know why it's limited to our time, but you know. Anyway, I love you dearly.
Oh, this is it, huh?
Yeah, this is it for now. But we will talk soon off air.
I hope so.
And we will see you at the gala this year in the fall.
Yes.
Much love.
Bye, sweetheart.
And now it's time for Fighting Words. I'm grateful to Laura Bates of the Everyday Sexism Project in England for today's Fighting Words. I was taping her for a later show, and I congratulated her on the first British win at Wimbledon in over 70 years, and her reaction inspired me to do some homework. Last week's London Telegraph's front page read, "After 77 years, the wait is over." TV broadcasters announced that Sunday was a proud day for tennis-loving Brits, and much of the international press also reported that it was the first time in 77 years that a British tennis player had won Wimbledon, since Fred Perry in 1936. But Fred Perry was the last male Brit to win the championship. In fact, there have been 4 British women winners in that time. Dorothy Round-Little won her second Wimbledon title at age 29 in 1937, 1 year after Fred Perry. Angela Mortimer Barrett beat another Englishwoman, Christine Truman Janes, to become Wimbledon's women's singles champion in 1961. She was 29, and she was also partially deaf. Anne Hayden-Jones won her first Wimbledon singles championship in 1969. This was in the era of the great Billie Jean King, and every time the two players had met, Billie Jean had walked away the winner, but at Wimbledon in 1969, Hayden-Jones finally became the first left-handed female singles player to beat her and to win the championship. And in 1977, Virginia Wade, after a decade of wins, defeating Billie Jean at the 1968 U.S. Open, winning the Australian Open in 1972, Wade would become Wimbledon's last British singles winner for 36 years. You know, when feminists talk about the historical erasure of female achievement, somebody always says we're exaggerating or we're paranoid. Well, the slogan of the Women's Media Center is to make women visible and powerful in the media. Apparently, we have a lot more work to do just on the visible part, because otherwise our lives will continue to be reported, written down in lemon juice, showing up only under certain special weird light. What contempt for women the press showed by this erasure of champions, this blithe indifference to historical fact. Gentlemen, you've also harmed the reputation of a great tournament and left a stain on tennis and on sports reporting. For shame. What's more, what you did was gratuitous. It was a totally unforced error. And that's it for this week. You've been listening to us on CBS station 1580 AM radio in Washington, D.C., and on the web at WMClive.com. Remember to email us at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. Portions of this program were retaped earlier. Views expressed here do not represent the WMC. Here's the family for the program. WMC President and for this program Executive Producer Julie Burton, Senior Producer Crystal Williams-Chancellor, Technical Director Michelle Kinsey-Bruns, and our founding sponsor Regina Kulik-Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week when we talk with a former CIA agent, a member of the funder group Women Moving Millions, and writer and political pundit Katrina vanden Heuvel. Only here on Women's Media Center Live.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 AM, a CBS station.